The way that you tell a story with data depends to a large extent on who your audience is. You don't always know who will be sitting in your audience, but sometimes you do, or sometimes you might at least have an idea of who most of your audience will be. If possible, you should always try to find out as much as you can about your audience. That's because the appropriate strategies for presenting your data and telling a story about your data, in particular how much detail you go into, depends strongly on who your audience is. One of the factors is whether your audience is in your field or not in your field. This is particularly relevant if you work in a technical field or if you're presenting technical data. If you are an electrical engineer and you're showing data to a group of other electrical engineers, then you should feel free to present the data in a detailed fashion, including relevant equations, details about the analyses or statistical methods, the experimental equipment, or other topic-specific details. On the other hand, if you are an electrical engineer and are presenting your findings to a group of potential investors who are considering whether to fund your idea for an invention, then it's probably best not to go into too much detail and instead focus on the important messages, potential applications, and so on. Too much detail or technical specifications might make the investors concerned that you don't understand the big picture and you're just obsessed with little details without seeing the potential of your own work. If you are unsure about the level of relevant expertise in your audience, then it's best to assume that your audience is intelligent, curious, interested, and open-minded, but that they don't have the background to get all of the fine-grained details about exactly how the data were acquired and processed and analyzed. Therefore, you should tell a story about your data that is understandable to non-experts, but at the same time, you should be prepared to discuss the technical details in case someone knows the field and will ask those kinds of questions. This balance can be a little bit difficult to find because on the one hand, you want to convince your audience that you have the right expertise, but on the other hand, you don't want to alienate the audience and make them feel left out. Most importantly, don't sound like you are talking down to your audience or insulting them. So you shouldn't say something like, "I could go into all the details, but you wouldn't get it." Instead, you could say something like, "There are many important details that I'm not going into right now because I don't want this presentation to take too long, but I'm happy to discuss the details later if anyone has specific questions." This lets your audience know that you care about them and you know how to get the important points out without getting lost in the details, and at the same time you are ready to discuss those details if necessary.